Welcome to day 6 of the gathering at Todos Santos. It's December 6th, 2019. And if you've come upon this fortuitously on YouTube, what's going on here is my name is Robert Saltzman, and I'm the author of a couple of books. And we are gathered here to discuss those books, the material therein, and any other matters of interest. The titles of the two books are The 10,000 Things, that's the first one, and then that was followed up by Depending on No Thing. Those are available on Amazon. So, we have many new people today, an influx. The first 5 days have been lovely, and I'm looking forward very much to today. I began the other 5 meetings with a brief talk, but I think I will forego that one today and just ask for questions.
I am on a heart chakra panel this weekend for Women's Awakening at Cuatro Vientos, and it's their 5th year. And I am on a panel of 3 women, and we are going to be asked the question, what is it that helps you to keep an open heart throughout your day and throughout your life? And I'm going to be asked that question, and I have come up with ideas and thoughts about it, and I just felt intuitively that I would like to ask you that question, what it is that you do in your time to keep your heart open moment to moment, given the chaotic and the beautiful and all of the things that come across your path.
Okay, Gina, thank you. So, what a question. I'll have to agree with you that this world of ours is chaotic. It's sad also, in many ways. If we're honest with ourselves, all of us in this room are impossibly fortunate. Whatever our particular lacks may be, physical or material, we are not members of that 1/3 of humanity that doesn't have enough food to eat, enough water to drink, or a safe place to sleep. To say nothing of fear of other people being raped or murdered or being in a war. So I'm constantly aware of that, constantly. I realize how fortunate I am to be able to wake up in the morning, have a coffee, maybe a little breakfast, and just go for a walk safely, not looking behind me to see if someone's coming up to steal my camera, just out for a walk. But I'm not complacent, because I understand that this is just my good fortune, and in the next moment anything could happen. At my age, anything could happen physically. And if Robert suddenly dies of a heart attack and they find him on the beach, no one would be surprised. No one would be shocked. No one would say, Robert's too young. He died so young. No, I don't think that may have applied 10 years ago, but no longer. And so my heart is open to this moment, which is the only moment I have. I take nothing for granted. Does that address it?
That's what I came up with.
Beautiful. So we're on the same page. I love that. Thank you. I assume that most of you have read my book or books, and if there's anything in them that wasn't clear, I'd be happy to clarify them. In fact, I kind of thought that's what we would be doing here. The people who have attended the first few days, they will tell you that I can talk at length. And I'm willing to do so, but I have no particular agenda today, so if someone starts me off with a question that stimulates the give a talk, you may be here for a while and wish you hadn't asked the question. Yeah.
Robert, I've read your first book several times, and every time I certainly learn more, and trying to learn a little bit more about why I am the way I am. I've never been a religious person and always thought there was something to spirituality, but I'm older than you and I'm still looking. But one of the things that I had a little trouble was from your concept of being awake and how it relates to changing your behavior. I've been addicted to self-help books all my life, and I don't think I've ever been able to change my behavior from reading any of them. But I'd just like to know your opinion or your thoughts. I mean, you've sort of said when you realize what's going on or what's really happening, then it'll just, whatever the behavior is that you're worried about, will just disappear or will go away.
Well, I don't think that's quite what I said, or if I did, it's not what I would say now.
Well, that's probably how I just interpret something.
In my experience, when understanding changes, behavior changes automatically. It may not change suddenly, but once an understanding is there and keeps speaking, it's soft whisper, as my friend John would call it. Once you have an understanding, you can't really forget it. You may push it into the shadows, but then it will be there speaking to you. And so either quickly or slowly, your behavior will change. To take an easy example from my own life, there may be some food that I like to eat, but I know that if I do, I will really pay for it. And so I don't eat those foods. It's not worth it. And I think, so just on a risk reward or a cost benefit, that's the cost benefit basis, our behavior will change if we take into account the costs, I would say.
So kind of what you're saying is if it's a short-term thing, but long run, you're going to pay for it. It could be you eat that meal, it's a short-term pleasure, but long run, you're going to pay for it.
Yeah, an old friend of mine, she was devoted to fashion and was really always very thin. And when people offered her some food, she would say to herself, she confessed to me, a moment on the lips and forever on the hips. When we look into ourselves in an honest way, look into our own hearts, our own lives, we'll feel a sense, I would say, of dissatisfaction somewhere. And that dissatisfaction is ours alone. The next person will feel dissatisfaction also, but not the same dissatisfaction. So it's quite personal. All of this is quite personal. I experience myself as a very complex happening. Thoughts arise and I'm not making those thoughts arise. Feelings are there and I've not produced those feelings, they're just there. And there are my fears, anxieties, regrets, all of that is there. And it can't be destroyed or buried or pushed away. The more I try to push those things away, the part that I don't like, the more it will come back. May come back as a nightmare for all I know, but it will not allow itself to be suppressed forever. That's just the way the mind works. So the way that I have found to handle this is to simply acknowledge those things when they arise and say, yeah, I know, same old thing. You're afraid, you're 74, you're afraid now that you may end up with dementia. Right, Robert? Yeah, that's there. And so by doing that, it doesn't have to come back as a nightmare or anxiety. It's been acknowledged, and I understand that's part of the deal, and I can't make it go away. It's there, and I'm just going to live with it and not try, as so many spiritual people do. I use spiritual in quotation marks because I don't see any, I don't know what's spiritual. Is there really this world and then another world somewhere that's spiritual? I don't think so. I think that's just a matter of definition or thought process. So I don't think that these cures offered by so-called spirituality can really do anything about my anxiety, for example, except give me an attractive fantasy that may cover up the anxiety, but will not make it go away. And we know this very easily if we observe serious spiritual practitioners. They're not usually the most relaxed people you meet, especially if they're not allowed to meditate for a day or two. See, so the meditation is a drug. If it were really a cure, you would do it for a while and you're cured. Any medicine you have to take for the rest of your life sounds more like addiction to me than medication. And this is important to understand. This is my point of view. We have new people here, so let me address that for a moment. Since there are no questions, I will just rattle on until you've had enough. I'll ask for questions in a moment, but I preface the first few meetings by trying to make it absolutely clear that I'm expressing my views, my worldview, my opinions, and I'm not asking anyone to adopt them or to accept them or even approve of them. If you listen to something I say, like I just demeaned spiritual practice, and I do, that doesn't mean no one should meditate. I don't want you to get the wrong idea. It's just that meditation's not a cure-all. That's all I'm saying. It may be good for you, but not if you're using it to cover up what you feel. The kind of meditation that I see that could be helpful is when you don't try to cover up what you feel. You sit there quietly and notice everything you feel without judging it. If you can do that, get that kind of meditation going, that really would be good. But usually it doesn't work that way. Usually someone will sit there and say, gee, I just can't stop myself from thinking. I'm failing at this. See, that'll be a very popular one. No, you're not failing. That's what you're supposed to find out, that thoughts are just bubbling up, see, and that you can't make them stop. You cannot stop your thoughts. There's no way. You could try. It won't work. Okay. So my opinion is we are here right now, and that's all we got. And there's no reason to look for something in the future, because that's likely to be what I call an attractive fantasy. And of course, we're attracted to fantasy. And it's difficult if you're using fantasy to cover up your anxiety. It's difficult to give that up. It can become habitual. A lot of people use sex fantasies in that way. As soon as they begin to feel a bit worried about something, well, then they can take a little mini vacation, which has orgasms and everything. Not real ones, but just cooked up ones, memories of some perhaps past orgasm. And then, you see, then I'm not here anymore. I'm in this completely mental construct that has nothing to do with touching this world, nothing to do with appreciating the people in my life or my feelings and ideas. It's just Neverland, yeah? And I'm not telling anyone what to do, but what I call awake is when you don't go to Neverland. It's like I was saying, I don't eat food that I know I will pay for later. I don't go to Neverland either, because I would rather be here in this brief time. Life is so short. I spoke about this yesterday. It's impossibly short. It may seem long, But if it seems long, that's because you're not being honest. It could end in this minute, for one thing. That would really be impossibly short. But even if you don't have any big medical problems and you just live and age, when you get into the last years and look back on it, it seems that it happened like a flash of lightning, and then it's gone. And it will be your time to turn your face to the wall and die. And for me, I think that will be a lot easier if I appreciate everything I'm experiencing in this moment, all of it, the good and the bad. And so, just to reiterate, this is my point of view. It's what I wrote about in my books, but I'm not preaching it. I'm only confessing it. It's not the same. So please don't believe me. Test everything I say in the cauldron of your own heart. See if it has any value. And if it does, well, okay. So now I've filled 10 minutes like that, but I really need some feedback after all. I don't want to give lectures.
So my favorite line in the two books that it really spoke to me is the one where you said, I'm in awe that anything could exist at all.
Say it again?
You said, I'm in awe that anything can exist at all.
Yes,
Yes.
I'm in awe.
Right, so I that's where I live. I'm stuck right there in that awe. And I was wondering if you could elaborate though on sort of the totality of whatever it is that puts you in that awe for the ordinary, because I think that most people get awestruck by something that has awestruckness to it, like a moonshot, or they're wanting that next high, but they're not in awe of just their ordinary. So how did you find the awe in your ordinary?
I have no idea. That's just the way I am, I guess. I mean, when I heard that there is a colony of tiny mites living on our eyelashes, they're too small for us to notice them. They're microscopic. You could see them under a powerful microscope. They live their whole lives on your eyelashes, and they reproduce on your eyelashes. They're living there. They cause you no harm. That's just their home. This world is like that. There's anywhere you look, there's life going on. And it could be on a very small level, like the mites, or it could be whales that swim past here. I'm awestruck by a whale. I've been in the water with a whale. By some good fortune, this whale came up on the beach to roll around and scrape off its barnacles. And we were having a picnic on the beach with some friends from La Paz. And like many Mexicans, they don't swim in the ocean. They stay back on the beach, don't want to get hit by a wave. And so they're back there, and they're very proper people. And the whale came up and was rolling around. And my daughter, who's kind of a wild woman, and myself, we immediately ran down there and jumped in the water. And the whale tolerated that until we got up to the eye. And when the whale really saw us, it slapped its tail down and was 100 meters off the beach in a split second. Just lucky that the two of us didn't get hit by that tail, because it was the most powerful thing I've ever seen any animal do. Now, if you can't be awestruck by that, or the mites in your eyelashes, I don't know how to explain it. I will tell you that this is very natural to me, Trip. When I remember the day this happened. I was lying under a tree looking up through the branches as the sun went down, and the stars came out. I was just a kid, and I looked up at them, and it's hard to put this into words, but they're there. I didn't put them there. I didn't put any of this here. None of it. None of this is my doing. I have a human nervous system, so I can become the knower of it or the experience of it, a very small slice of it. I only know about the mites because I read it somewhere. I know about the whales because they swim by here. But I have trees in my yard now that I planted from seeds 20 years ago. It's incredible to me. I can remember the day that I put this tiny thing in the ground, and now it's huge. It's 20 feet high. It's fruiting. It's a palm tree, for example, and it's sending out. This is amazing. This is amazing. Or I watch a baby nursing at its mother's breast, and I see the connection between the mother and the child, eye to eye. The baby is feeling this pleasure of nutrition, and the mother is feeling this pleasure of being the giver of nutrition. And when I watch that, I'm really amazed. It's mind-blowing to me that we are mammals like many other animals, and this is the way mothers feed their babies, breast milk. It's amazing to me. I mean, we're animals. We are animals. No different from any other animal, except that we have a bit more prefrontal cortex, a bit more. So this is the only thing here that distinguishes us from my donkeys. They give birth, they conceive in the same way that we do, precisely the same. And their period of gestation is also 9 months by chance. And they give birth in the exact same way that we do. And they nurture their young in the same way with the nipples that they have on their bodies. And they grow up into these animals that aren't human, but they have all the feelings that we have. They just don't have all the thoughts we have. The brain won't accommodate thinking, but will accommodate lots of feeling. And I know that because I'm in love with one of my donkeys, and she's in love with me. We have 3, but 2 of them are just ordinary donkeys. One of them is the donkey on the cover of the book. Anybody have that book to hold up? The Depending on No Thing?
Yeah, Maria's got a copy.
Yeah. Oh, let me have that. We'll put that on camera. Thank you, Maria. This is me and Sombra. Now, my friend John Troy likes to say, critter love is even better than human love. And I really, I really understand that. When Sombra comes up to me and sidles up and starts nibbling at my fingers, that's a donkey kiss. If I take her in my arms like this, I can feel her contentment and satisfaction. It's so obvious, it's just flowing forward. That's what's going on here. She's just feeling totally joyous that I would hold her like this. Well, I'm the same way. When someone I love holds me, it feels wonderful, it feels beautiful. Would you be willing to talk a bit about critter love or anything else?
Critter love is seamless. there's not as much mental stuff. For me, it's a real communion.
Can you hear John? Okay, good.
And that's a pet or Trip came over, had dinner with me the other night, and he said, a chickadee was all of a sudden right there, and looking at him, and said, man, that's as enlightened as anyone could ever be, that chickadee. And I get that, I hear that. It's free of contrivance and thought, and it's just not a mental fabrication of a relationship. It's just, to me, it's really seamless. I have kitties that I love in a way. I walk in an area, we have a lot of wild critters, and the older I get, the less afraid they are, whether it's a squirrel or the deer or whatever, and I've got a good relationship with the critters.
I know you do.
A hummingbird came up this morning, and Carol and I were sitting outside looking over the Pacific, and a hummingbird came up and he was right with both of us and was really hanging and invited us out and everything. We really got, and Carol put her hand out and it looked like the hummingbird was almost going to get on her finger, but didn't, but really was, yeah, it was a beautiful little connection with just a little hummingbird this morning. But I like it. I'm fascinated by DNA. Whether it's a plant, a critter, the little mite on the eyelash, or whatever, the magic in the DNA, to me is so incredible. And sometimes I get in discussions with people about reincarnation and thinking that some dead spirit out there floating around and you're going to go jump into some precious newborn baby and take over and run the show. And to me, that's just ridiculous. There was a thing I posted about when a sperm hits an egg and the zinc in it comes alive and there's a flash of light, and that's kind of the beginning of that fusion of the egg and the sperm in life. And I don't see how, I mean, that's so magical. I mean, it's just mind-blowing magical. I mean, you can't make up stuff that magical, and it's real, and it's right. It's in our science today, things that we know, and our ability to look down and see these kind of things. We talked this morning about karma and reincarnation and spiritual things floating through the air that might jump into a body or something like that. That's kind of far-fetched for me. And I think that, I mean, we've all got a unique DNA, and it goes back a long, long way, and it's unfolding. And to me, a human being unfolds like a flower unfolds. The DNA blooms and we mature and we unfold. And the marvel of a human brain is, I hear all these experiences from people, I believe them all the NDAs, all, yes, 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 the lights, all of it, yeah, but they come and they go. And it's a changing flux, a marvelous manifestation of the human brain and our perception, but they all end, and it ends. And it's experiencing as an experience of oneness, etc. That's a temporary thing for me. I mean, it's very highly respected. And this little short life is like a flash of a lightning bug, and very, very, very precious. And the feelings we feel, whether from eroticism to compassion to anxiety, sorrow, sometimes it's good to go to a movie and cry, or experience all of these emotions. It's not something to avoid or anything, but to let be. And critters, letting it, I mean, that chickadee, you don't want to fix that chickadee. You don't want to save the chickadee or make the chickadee any different or think that the chickadee think like you or anything. You just appreciate the chickadee like the chickadee is, and that, or a tiger lily, or whatever form of life that is. But the impermanence of that love, whether it's the donkey or the chickadee or the flower, that impermanence is the underbelly of the beauty. I mean, if you didn't have music disappearing as fast as it was happening, if you didn't have the notes going into stillness as fast as they appear, the music would lose its beauty. It would, if you didn't have a shadow, the light would be meaningless. It wouldn't have that beauty. So to honor and appreciate impermanence, and for myself, my own confession is that accepting mortality is accepting beauty in its fullness right now, and thinking that there's a permanent something, grabbing for some permanent something, whether it's a witness or a little thing or a karmic something over here. It's kind of a strange trip where you're the full appreciation of what's happening right now is missed. We were talking about beforehand, we were talking about L. Frank Baum, and he wrote The Wizard of Oz. And to me, the real character in The Wizard of Oz is Toto. He's the critter. He's the critter pal in The Wizard of Oz. L. Frank Baum, if you don't know, his parents were into opera houses and theater, and he was kind of an entrepreneur and did this, that, and the other, and liked kids and told stories. His wife and mother-in-law were members, this is in the late 1800s, of the Theosophical Society. When Ramana Maharshi, as a teenager, had the panic attack and went to the hill, this was about the time that L. Frank Baum was writing The Wonderful Wizard of Oz, the story. And influenced by some of the Theosophical Society's attempt to synthesize the Eastern schools of thoughts into, this is where J. Krishnamurti emerged out of that same background. But Toto in the Wizard of Oz plays the role that Robert's body of work plays. And it's what's missing in so many cosmologies and theologies. It's the shoe that doesn't drop other places. And it does drop with Robert's work. And the curtain does come back. And the search is seen for what it is. And that idolatry to this wonderful Wizard of Oz, when the curtain is pulled back, there's an ordinary human being there. And one of the things that's so beautiful in that story is that not only are Dorothy and her comrades affirmed in their own seeking, they had what they were seeking all along, but the wizard, once relieved of being a wizard as a human being, as Professor Marvel, was able to affirm with an equality of vision with Dorothy and the Tin Man and the Scarecrow, the things that they were seeking for, they had all along. They had it all along. That was the takeaway. If you were to study Ramana Maharshi's body, that whole thing, and distill out all the Shiva Shakti shit, the mountain of it that covers all that. There's some really cool stuff in there. But the takeaway is no different than the Wizard of Oz. You had it all along. Takeaway is the same. On one, they're trying to make a messiah out of a human being with Ramana Maharshi. On the other, the story of the Wizard of Oz with Toto fully in place in the story. No one's made a religion out of it. No one's made a guru out of it. It's the most watched movie in the history of movie making to date. More people have seen that. It's been so influential. And it's seen at different levels and keeps unfolding. And the critter, Toto, the critter in there, which represents the intuition, knew it was bullshit. Knew the whole wizard thing was a bullshit thing, and pulled the curtain back. And yet, the same person who may get what Ramana Maharshi said may not can even comprehend the power of that little fable. And there's no clawback in that fable of anything you got to worship or believe in or anything like that. So for me, the story of the Wizard of Oz beats any Hindu scripture, any scripture anywhere in the world. And it's got the Toto. It's got that critter love right there that just takes care of that part, that last little bit of dust. And I shared a piece of artwork, a friend, Joe Stevens, a friend of ours, painted this picture of Toto. I shared it with Katanya, and I said, it reminds me of Robert. Toto reminds me of Robert. and a lot of respect for that, because that's what's missing. And so many of these seeking for betterment on the road to find out the yellow brick road. We come in here, Robert says the yellow brick road is leading this way. As we got out of the truck, pickup truck, to follow the yellow brick road. But the critter pal, the critter love in there,
Beautiful.
brought it through.
Beautiful.
And you're like a Toto. You're like a Toto for me. I love it. Like a critter love.
I love you too.